Today we're looking at the British English accent of Zayn Malik.
My main thing with clothes is I just always try to make my outfit look cool. I don't know why that is, it's just something I want to do.
Successful solo artist and former One Direction member, Zayn was born and brought up in Bradford in West Yorkshire, which is in the north of England. Other famous people from Bradford include the artist David Hockney, the England cricketer Johnny Bairstow, and possibly the most famous literary sisters in the world, the Bronte sisters, who between them wrote Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre. The city is one of the most diverse in Britain, with 20% of its population being made up of people from Pakistani ethnic origin. That's the highest proportion of any city in Britain. Zayn is of mixed heritage. His mother is half Irish, half English, and his father is British Pakistani. Now what I'm really curious to see is what his accent's like and if it's been influenced by any of these factors. So if you're ready, let's get to it. Okay, let's start back in 2010 with his X Factor audition.
I seriously don't want to do it because I hate dancing and I've never done it before, and I just feel like an idiot on the stage trying to dance with other people that are clearly better than me, and I just feel like an idiot. I'm not doing it.
Okay, we can already hear he's got a very strong Bradford accent, and there are several features in that sentence that tell us that it's a Bradford accent. Okay, so first of all, we've got the ah of dance. That's a very typical Northern English pronunciation feature, that ah sound. In the south of England, it's ah, so it'd be dance. In the north of England, it's ah for dance. And we'll hear that throughout the interviews.
Because I hate dancing.
That second typical sound is that ah sound on done. So it's done.
And I've never done it before.
Now we've heard that sound before. Fellow One Directioners Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson.
We all then got it done, except for Niall.
Harry, welcome to Virgin.
Thank you very much for having me.
So you can see they all share that sound, and this is again typical of accents in the north of England, that done. Instead of in the south, it would be done, that ah sound. We've also got a glottal T straight away, so it's not better with that true T, it's better, better. He's glottalizing that T sound, and we'll find that again later on in the interviews.
On the stage trying to dance with other people that are clearly better than me.
Now one really interesting feature there is the H sound of hate. He pronounced it as an H, right? Whereas in a typical Bradford accent and in Yorkshire in general, we would expect it to be dropped. So it would be et, not hate. Now that's an interesting feature that I think we should monitor as we go through the interview. Certainly when we did Louis Tomlinson's accent video, we heard that he dropped the H quite frequently, like this.
Horrible, horrible, horrible decision, but that's the beauty of a good cover-up.
Now Louis Tomlinson is from Doncaster. It's just a few miles south of Bradford, so there's quite a big difference. But as I said, in Bradford we would expect to drop that H. So yeah, let's see if he continues to drop it throughout the other interviews.
I seriously don't want to do it because I hate dancing and I've never done it before, and I just feel like an idiot on the stage trying to dance with other people that are clearly better than me, and I just feel like an idiot. I'm not doing it.
Okay, now we're going to move on to an interview from 2016, and I want to see if his accent has changed at all.
I just gave it a go.
Okay, firstly, no, right? It hasn't changed at all. It's still that same strong West Yorkshire accent. The other feature that I think is really typical of a Bradford accent and West Yorkshire is the way he said go. He said it like this.
I just gave it a go.
So that sound in received pronunciation and in standard English is an O sound. It's a diphthong, two vowel sounds together. But the way that Zayn says it, it's more like give it a go, give it a go. It's that elongated vowel. Very interesting and very typical of a Bradford accent. And we're gonna hear that a few times. So on go, phone, show, yeah, we can expect to hear that sound again.
I just gave it a go.
Now let's go back to that glottal T that we talked about earlier and find some more examples of that.
That wasn't my cup of tea, do you know what I mean? They knew that. They were aware of that.
Okay, did you hear the way he said that? The T in the end position, it disappears. So he's glottalized it, so it's that, not that.
That wasn't my cup of tea, do you know what I mean? They knew that. They were aware of that.
Okay, we're moving on to our third interview from 2017. And again, I'm hearing the same strong accent as we heard in 2010. Unlike Harry Styles' accent, which we saw before, and it's how it changed and evolved over time, Zayn's accent has remained strong and distinctly Bradford, distinctly West Yorkshire. Even in the most recent interviews that I found, it's the same accent. So despite becoming a global superstar, having an American girlfriend, his accent hasn't changed at all.
I was kind of half asleep and G walked in with the phone and showed it to me.
So again, we've got that same sound. Remember with go, the diphthong of go is go. We've now got it on phone and showed as well.
I was kind of half asleep and G walked in with the phone and showed it to me.
Let's hear another example.
The studio is kind of like what I always envisioned my bedroom to be like. My granddad, he was a teddy boy, so he loved like dressing up in suits and like wearing like specific tie done a certain way.
Okay, here's the first example of where we can hear the Asian influence on Zayn's accent. I actually spoke to a fantastic linguist called Dr Jessica Wormald, who studied Punjabi English speakers in Bradford and Leicester. And she explained to me that within this community, you might expect to hear what we call a retroflex R. So this is when you put the tip of the tongue on your alveolar ridge and you pull your tongue back to create that R sound. It's a kind of R, like this. And we can hear this when Zayn pronounces the R in granddad.
My granddad, he was a teddy boy.
Okay, it's subtle, but it's there.
My granddad.
And that is a feature we might expect in Punjabi English speakers in Britain. Now, in her research of Anglo-English speakers in Bradford and Leicester, she found that that sound wasn't present. So this is an interesting insight into the influence on Zayn's accent by the local community. Okay, let's find another example of this retroflex R.
Personally, again, I'm not like a very outgoing, like social person, like in terms of big groups of people.
Can you hear it? It's subtle, but it is there.
Big groups of people dressing up in suits and like wearing like specific tie done a certain way.
Okay, this sentence has two interesting features. First of all, we've got that sound again on done, so it's done. And then we've got a very interesting and typical feature of West Yorkshire, that where. So it's a diphthong again, way, that A sound, and it's stretched out, it's elongated again. So it'd be on way, on safe, on play, words like that.
Dressing up in suits and like wearing like specific tie done a certain way. It's kind of like my childhood aspirations to one day build a studio.
Okay, this is a fantastic sentence with lots of interesting features. First of all, that A sound, that sound again on aspiration. We've got the on one, so one. We've got again on day, and that diphthong O on studio becoming studio. And lastly, I want to point out that H in childhood. Now remember we talked about that earlier. He used H on hate. And again, he's pronouncing that H sound, childhood.
It's kind of like my childhood.
Now, in most accents in British English, you're not going to pronounce the H, but in his accent, he's pronouncing the H. Now, that's really interesting. There are three accents in Britain where you would pronounce an H. In received pronunciation, which is often seen as standard English pronunciation. In Geordie, in Newcastle, and also in MLE, Multicultural London English. Now that's quite a young accent spoken by the multi-ethnic citizens in London. And what I'm interested to see is whether his pronunciation of the H comes from standardization. So has he got it from received pronunciation and standard English pronunciation, or has he got it from multicultural London English and the influences there? So for example, a lot of young artists, musicians, certainly from London, might speak with multicultural London English. And so if Zayn is friends with them, or he follows them on Instagram, or he hears a lot of interviews with them or something like that, maybe he's picking the H up from them. I'm not quite sure what the answer is, but it's really interesting the way that it's distinctly different from what you might expect from a Bradford accent. Okay, so what have we learned about Zayn Malik's accent? Well, it hasn't changed from the earliest interview to the most recent. It's the same accent. It's a strong West Yorkshire accent with a few very subtle influences of maybe the Asian community in Bradford, particularly with that retroflex R sound. But the big question, guys, now is who should I do next? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to know more about British English, I have a brand new book that's coming out. It has British accents, it has slang, it has culture, everything you need. Before I go, I just want to say another big thank you to Dr Jessica Wormald for all her help and her research in putting this video together. And if you're interested in reading her academic work on this accent, I have put the link just below. Until next time, this is Tom, the Chief Dreamer, saying goodbye.